The fight against corruption often masks the political point scoring. You can hardly name a country of the former Soviet Union where this situation did not take place. Mikhail Saakashvili has been building glass-walled police stations and appointed students as ministers, while his political opponents were kept in prison and raped with broomsticks. Shortly after coming to power, Viktor Yanukovych sent Yulia Tymoshenko to jail. During 2010 presidential elections, she was his opponent and lost by a little over 3% of votes. After the coup of 2014, political opponents of the Ukrainian authority are rarely sent to prison. From now on, they were killed and forced to leave the country. Uzbekistan is no exception. For the former Prime Minister Shavkat Mirziyoyev, in 2016 succeeded Islam Karimov, the first president of independent Uzbekistan, announcing a large-scale campaign against corruption. The question is, what prevented him from fighting against corruption since 2003, when he took up the post of the head of the government? Moreover, why did those from Mirziyoyev suspects to be politically disloyal became the prime suspects and accused of corruption? The story began in 2013, when Islam Karimov, the first president of Uzbekistan, had a heart attack and his health went significantly downhill. Karimov considered to skip next elections in 2015, and that led to more active talks about the possible successor. The experts named a lot of various candidates, but the final shortlist included 4 of them: Gulnara Karimova, the president's eldest daughter; Rustam Azimov, the Minister of Finance and the first Vice Prime Minister of Uzbekistan government; Rashid Kadyrov, the Prosecutor General; and Shukrat Galamov, the first Vice Chairman of the National Security Service, who faithfully served the family of the first president. We can only guess what happened next. If the iceberg was only 10% of its volume above the water, here we can see barely 1%, and we are able to judge the situation in Uzbekistan political elite merely by seeing what's on the surface. In a few months, President's beloved daughter, Gulnara Karimova, had turned from an all-powerful princess into a suspect in many crimes, including extortions, seizing of state property, tax dodging, and many others. Total losses caused by Karimov's actions were estimated $2 billion. An active campaign in mass media was unleashed against Rashid Karimov. It turned out that the family of the Prosecutor General allegedly owned property worth more than $1 billion in different countries. The campaign was held in full accordance with the Adolf Hitler's testament. The bigger the lie, the more people inclined to believe it. Countries, property, banks, and amounts of money were named. However, no documents were provided as an evidence. The performed inspections didn't show any violations. The hope was that the changes looked big. The large-scale audit began in the Ministry of Finance and the Accounts Chamber, which were supervised by Azimov. The investigation against Galamov was also launched. After long years of flawless service, he was suddenly suspected of unseemly affairs with the Afghan Northern Alliance and personally with the General Dostum. At the same time, Prime Minister Shavkat Mirziyoyev surprisingly turned out to be completely clean. Any compromising material was successfully blocked, even though none of possible successors, who suddenly became extremely suspicious, could commit those crimes they were accused of without the head of the government knowing about it. Probably, Mirziyoyev expected to get the first presidential blessing for the nomination of the candidate for the post of head of the republic, but in 2015 Islam Karimov decided not to bet on a successor, but to participate in elections. This was probably the last straw for his health. In September 2016, the first president of independent Uzbekistan was gone. By this time, Gulnara Karimova has been under arrest for 3 years. Rashid Kadyrov was forced to leave the post of Prosecutor General. Azimov and Galamov completely abandoned any ambitions. At the same time, Kadyrov, Azimov and Galyamov were apparently given guarantees of immunity as far as none of them even tried to leave the country. And why should a person who does not feel any guilty flee the country? Islam Karimov did not view Shavkat Mirziyoyev as a successor. This is beyond question. It was precisely by the initiative of the first president that the Constitution of Republic of Uzbekistan was amended to the effect that it was impossible for the current leader of the Republic to perform the duties and authorities shall be laid upon the chairman of the Senate, and presidential elections shall be held within 3 months. However, the constitution was forgotten for the same reason after Karimov's death. Nigmatilla Yuldashev, the chairman of the Senate, withdrew his name. Using the loophole in the law, Mirziyoyev, who had portrayed himself as an absolute technical prime minister while Karimov was still alive, occupied the post of the acting president. Of course, the presidential elections are absolutely won by one who organized them. After Shavkat Mirziyoyev's victory at the non-competitive elections, the situation was evolving rapidly. First, Gulnara Karimova, sentenced to 5 years of home confinement in 2014, was handed a new sentence by a new president's order to Prosecutor General Ikhtiyor Abdullayev, 10 years in prison. In July 28, 2017, the first president's daughter was transferred to the general regime penal colony in Zangaita district, city of Tashkent. Her relative didn't have a chance to talk to her ever since. On August 4, 2017, the new president, Mirziyoyev, lashed out the political system Islam Karimov had created, calling it trash. In his speech, he emphasized that he hated persecutors. In August 14, 2017, Shavkat Galyamov, the first deputy chairman of the country's security service, SNB, has arrested on charges of high treason and sentenced to life imprisonment. His brother Bakhtiar, who was working at the ambassador's extraordinary and plenipotentiary of Uzbekistan in USA, was urgently withdrawn and currently remains under travel restrictions, and all his family too. On February 22, 2018, ex-prosecutor general Rashid Kadyrov was arrested. Torture and explosion of chemicals are regularly reported in relation to a political prisoner. True serum is actively used. Detainees are forced to stay awake for 3-4 days in special soft rooms. There is evidence that Rashid Kadyrov and other high-ranking inmates, ex-employees of the Public Prosecutor's Office, National Security, Law Enforcement, Tax Committee, Central Bank, are ill-treated. After potential successor and would-be political prisoner Rustam Azimov simply bought himself immunity. Thankfully, he could afford that. This was put in the form of foreign investment from Sky Power Global Company, Cayman Islands, controlled by ex-deputy prime minister. Thus, in the moment, Uzbekistan's state system Islam Karimov created is almost fully destroyed by the new president Mirziyoyev. Let us remember that Mirziyoyev was the prime minister of his trash system, the president's right-hand man for 13 years. It is noteworthy that Vladimir Putin never criticized his predecessor. This is what is called human decency. Mirziyoyev does it for the clean reason: to reinforce his authority and destroy anyone who could curb it. One would think this is Uzbekistan's internal affairs. The problem is that instead of maintaining his predecessor's checks and balances system, President Mirziyoyev endangered the nation's security of entire Central Asia. Uzbekistan stays in the forefront of the battle with Islamic terrorists who flee from Russian airstrikes in Syria in large numbers. By eliminating national security leadership and destroying the vertical of power beyond repair, Mirziyoyev lays Uzbekistan open to terrorism, and not only Uzbekistan, but entire Central Asia and even Russia. Impunity demoralizes. There is no one to give the president the cue that his race for power is endangering the whole region. For those who wholeheartedly has served the cause, for the first president of Uzbekistan, Islam Karimov, and the people, it has become clear that the country is facing the time of troubles. Russia is a recognized referee in complex relationships between Central Asian clans. Perhaps it's time for Russia to make a statement about it.